So I'm sitting on Primrose Hill in London, which is somewhat appropriate for what I want to talk about, which is flooding. Because if all the ice caps, the Arctic and Antarctic ice caps melt, as they might well do in coming years, then this will be one of the few places in London which will still be above water. And somebody asked me recently, did I believe in Noah's flood? And my answer was yes. Not necessarily the biblical story, but I do believe there was a great flood, sometime probably around 10,000 years ago, which was the time that the last ice age ended, and all those glaciers and snow and ice which had built up over Europe and North America melted and ran into the sea. And it's estimated that sea levels rose probably around 200 to 300 feet at that time, very rapidly within the span of a generation. And that's why I think there's so many myths of the Great Flood, whether it's Atlantis, Lemuria, just about every culture has the idea that back in history there was this Great Flood. And it would have happened very, very rapidly in terms of historical time, just maybe 10, 20, 30 years. And it would have happened around the area where Noah lived. In fact, what we now call the Black Sea wasn't a sea at all then, it was land, and it was cut off from the Mediterranean by the Bosphorus. But when the sea levels rose, it started flowing over the Bosphorus into this area of land. And when it was in full flow, it's estimated that it was probably covering the land at the rate of about a mile a day. So people then, herdsmen, etc., who were living there, would have had to be retreating with everything at the rate of about a mile a day, taking their herds and belongings with them to avoid this great flood. And I'm sure that one of them, maybe several of them, had this idea of building a boat, an ark, and putting their belongings, their family and their animals, with at least one of each of their animals, a male and female, of their various animals on the boat to escape the flood. And Mount Ararat, which is where the ark is meant to have landed, is interestingly right on the edge of what we now call the Black Sea. It's also interesting to know that now we've got submersibles which can go down 200 or 300 feet. In modern times we've started discovering remains of ancient cities 200 or 300 feet below the surface of the sea, around the edges of nearly all the continents, in the Mediterranean, the Caribbean, off the coast of Africa, off the coast of Japan. Everywhere there's signs that this is where the early civilizations were, and it's natural that they'd have been on the edges of the continents, around river estuaries, around possible ports. That's where a lot of the people would have lived. So I think the idea of a great flood is certainly true, and that I think is what lies behind Atlantis, Lemuria. It wasn't something that just happened in one place, it happened everywhere, and it's probably going to happen again.